Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome. My stream will take a second to catch up as it always does, but how are you doing? It is Thursday, which means it is time for the Monster Workshop stream. Thank you so much for coming. Hey, hello, how are you? What's going on, guys? Talk to me. It's Thursday. We're here to talk about the Demilich. It's funny, my schedule for both Monster of the Week and this stream has gotten way out of whack. I just last Sunday I forgot to post, like this most recent Sunday, but the week before that I forgot to post it all, and so I was like, oh shoot, and so I just delayed Demilich to this Sunday, like the most recent one, and then this week I recorded the next episode. And I realized that I had actually skipped the final demon episode. That I had recorded a version of it, and then for some reason the audio got corrupted. And then I recorded the next episode, which is dinosaurs. So the one coming out for patrons tomorrow, for everyone else on Sunday, will be dinosaurs. And then I'll have to, on the demons episode, say, oops, I forgot about the final demons. So the order is very messed up. But suffice to say, we are here today to talk about the Demilich. This is a kind of a weird monster, a monster that, like, I knew about the existence of the Demilich. Like, I obviously could point it out and would be able to recognize what it is, and had like a vague conception that it was like a lesser lich, or a more like an evolved form of a lich. But yeah, it's a weird monster that I've never used. I've never really even encountered in D&D. But I kind of enjoyed reading it. It was interesting. It's an interesting design, and I think it's a surprisingly potent monster. So we're gonna break that down today. If you've not watched one of our streams before, the way these streams work, I will look at a monster from 5th edition. I didn't get my monster manual. I will look at a monster from 5th edition, and we will kind of analyze it and how it works, and then we will talk about ways we can improve it, and then implement those changes right here on the stream. It is obviously in partnership with my podcast, the Monster of the Week, which you can see the details about up there. You can find us on Apple and Spotify and wherever else you listen to podcasts. And yeah, it's kind of a companion piece to that. So if you enjoy that podcast, this is the right place for you. But let's talk about what a Demilich is. On concept, a Demilich is sort of it is like a monster paired with another monster. Obviously, it is a form of a lich, but it is deemed to be different enough to have its own stats and its own powers and abilities. The conceit here is that a lich, in order to remain alive, an undead spellcaster that is fed by souls that it sends to its reliquary, in order to stay alive and stay undead, a lich must feed souls to its reliquary, the artifact that's keeping it contiguous. So the Demilich is basically what happens when a lich stops feeding its phylactery, right? If it stops feeding the reliquary, then it turns into this kind of strange, it's basically like just an animated skull, like its body kind of withers away and just the skull remains. And my understanding is that it is largely inert. It just sort of lies where it died, and it only animates if you come near it, if it kind of sets off a proximity. There's a lot of other lore about the Demilich, about Demiliches that have separated themselves from their bodies and then travel through various consciousnesses. It's very confusing. Hey, what's up, M. Grant? Thanks for coming. But mechanically, yeah, the Demilich is essentially like a floating skull with a pile of interesting necrotic powers. It is sometimes accompanied by both a kind of whirlwind of bone dust, and then also they sometimes have, in their eye sockets, they have gems, soul gems. They have trapped the last few remaining souls that we're able to get access to. There's a whole sidebar about it in the monster manual. Speaking of which, I'm going to go grab mine really quick. It is just over here. I always forget. I either forget my water, or I forget to get my monster manual, or whatever it is. But I'm going to go grab that. I'll be back in 30 seconds. And then we will be talking about what the Demilich actually is mechanically, and how we can maybe improve it, make it even cooler and scarier. 30 seconds, everybody. I'll be right back. Not even 30 seconds, 10 seconds. 10 seconds. So I have it here. It is ready to go. I'll grab that when we need it. But we're going to start with just reading the Demilich's stat block and talking about it. The Demilich is a tiny undead. It's neutral evil. It's got 20 armor class, so pretty hard to hit. It's got not very many hit points, 80 hit points, which was originally going to be one of my complaints about it, but I actually think that it works itself out. It's got a speed of 0, so it can't move, it can't walk, but it has a 30-foot fly speed with hover. So again, kind of hovering in the air, often, sort of atop this swirling cloud of bone shards. 1 strength, 20 dexterity, so bad strength, great dex. Average con, great intelligence, which I think is kind of weird. It's got 17 wisdom and 20 charisma, so really, really good scores, with the exception of the strength and the con. It's got saving throw proficiencies with constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. So very, very weak at strength saves. That's kind of its weakness here for sure. It's got damage resistances to cold, lightning, necrotic, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from magic weapons. And then it has damage immunity to poison, bludgeoning, piercing, slashing from non-magical weapons. So it is immune to damage from non-magic weapons, which seems powerful, but then you realize it's a CR 18, and it's, that's pretty normal. I don't think you're going to be fighting a lot of people who don't have magic weapons or magic weapon equivalents. It is immune to charmed, deafened, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, and stunned. So a lot of condition immunities as well. This thing is pretty hard to hit and pretty hard to damage. So its 80 hit points, I think, makes a little bit more sense when you take all that into consideration. But there are even still more things that make it hard to kill. It's got true sight, 120 feet, obviously passive perception. It doesn't speak any languages, which I think is really interesting. It has 20 intelligence, but it can't speak, which I think is just, let me confirm that that's right. That might be a miscopy for me on the stat block, but like, normally an undead has, any languages that it knew in life, but the Demilich seemingly can't speak at all, which I think is quite odd, especially considering that, like, because to me it would make sense, nothing. To me it would make sense that the Demilich, like, isn't intelligent anymore, right? That, like, it's lost its sentience. It's just kind of like a cackling, remnant of the Lich, but it still has 20 intelligence, so it's about as smart, if not, I don't know what the Lich's intelligence is, but it seems relatively, comparable. Ability-wise, it's got legendary resistance. It's a legendary monster, so that makes sense. And then it's got a really interesting power called avoidance. It has the same intelligence as a Lich, so all the intelligence is going on, but for some reason it can't speak, which I think is very strange. It's got avoidance. Avoidance is basically like evasion, but for all saving throws, not just dexterity, right? Isn't that crazy? That's very, very powerful. So, like, if it makes the save, then it takes half damage. Or sorry, if it fails the save, it takes a half damage, and it takes no damage if it succeeds. So again, this is another way that it is surviving longer, even though it only has 80 hit points. It's got turn immunity, of course. And then it has 2 actions. It's got Howl. It has higher charisma. What is that? That's so weird, right? I feel like that's like a lore problem. It's like, if they can't talk, why is its charisma higher than the Lich? Isn't that wild? I don't know. So the idea here with the Howl, its primary action, is it's on a recharge 5/6, so that great 4th edition mechanic. It emits a blood-curdling howl. Each creature within 30 feet of the Demilich that can hear the howl must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw. So not that high for CR 18, but it does affect every creature within 30 feet, so that brings it down. Or drop to 0 hit points. On a successful save, the creature is frightened until the end of its next turn. Oh, that can't be right. Oh, I missed that, yeah. DC 15 Constitution saving throw or drop to 0 hit points. I missed that part. Yeah, drop to 0 hit points. On a successful save, they're just frightened, but 0 hit points, my friend. This means that they can be, like, on a recharge 5/6, this is like a souped-up Banshee. M. Grants also pointed out that they have higher dex than the Lich, which that I think kind of makes sense if they're a floating skull. It doesn't have an ugly body. Well, it's a pretty ugly skull. M. Grant says maybe just because it's a floating bejeweled skull, it's pretty. Yeah, but that is that classic fallacy of comparing charisma to attractiveness, right? But what I think is actually the more impressive of the 2 actions the Demilich has is it has life drain. Also, what's up, Nuker Wolf? Thanks for coming. The Demilich targets up to 3 creatures that it can see within 10 feet of it. Each creature must succeed on a DC 19 Constitution saving throw. That's much more in line with what we would expect. or takes 66 necrotic damage, and the Demilich regains hit points equal to the total number of damage dealt to all targets. Think about that, right? So let's assume that the Demilich blasts out with its life drain. Let's say it hits 2 of the 3 targets, right? That it's careful in who it picks. It picks people who have statistically more likely to fail a con save. It hits 2 of them, right? Let's say that it deals average damage to those 2, right? So that's 42 damage that it's dealing, but then it's regaining 42 hit points. They're not temporary hit points. It's regaining damage, hit points equal to the total damage dealt to all targets. Right, that's super powerful. Think about the economy on that. Like, presumably, you know, you are dealing out a lot of damage to the Demilich each round, but it does have resistances from magic weapons, so it's only taking half damage, you know, and it's got avoidance, so if you're trying to use spells on it, and then every round it is not only dealing out a bunch of damage, but it's getting health back. Pretty gnarly. That's you know, that's interesting. I kind of like that idea that it doesn't have a big pile of hit points. It just has all of these ways to blunt and to regain hit points. It makes it a lot more dynamic of a monster. And then secondly, it's got legendary actions. The Demilich can take 3 legendary actions, choosing from among them. It's got 4 different options though. One of them is flight, so it flies up to half its flying speed. It's okay. You know, it does provoke an opportunity attack in the process, so it's not the best. It's got Cloud of Dust. The Demilich magically swirls its dusty remains around a corner and must succeed on a... I've just jumped ahead. The dusty remains, each creature within 10 feet of the Demilich, including those around a corner, must be some words missing there, must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or be blinded till the end of the Demilich's next turn, which is nice. Blinded is always good. A creature that succeeds on its saving throw is immune to this effect until the end of the Demilich's next turn. Okay, it's a little weird. So yeah, and that's one action. That's pretty nice. Energy Drain costs 2 actions. Each creature within 30 feet of the Demilich must make a DC 15 con save. On a failed save, their hit point maximum is magically reduced by 3d6. If they are reduced to 0 by this effect, then the creature dies. A creature's hit point maximum can be restored with the Greater Restoration spell or similar magic. So also, you know, pretty nasty. It's not the most powerful, but for a legendary action, it's pretty good. And then lastly, we have Vile Curse. Now, this one costs 3 actions. You would expect something pretty hefty here. It targets one creature it can see within 30 feet of it. They make a DC 15 Wisdom saving throw, so a little low on the saving throw there. But the same as the Energy Drain, although that affects multiple targets. Or be magically cursed. Until the curse ends, the target has disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the curse on a success. We will talk about Vile Curse in a little bit, but that is their last legendary action. Now, beyond that, though, the Demilich also has this interesting thing called lair traits. They're not lair actions, per se. Let me actually see. Do they have lair actions, too? Can I just miss them? I think they might have lair actions. They do. They have 3 lair actions, which I actually think are okay. One of them is the tomb trembles violently for a moment. Each creature on the floor of the tomb must succeed on a DC 19 dex save or be knocked prone. It's okay. Targets one creature it can see within 60 feet of it. An anti-magic field fills the space of the target, moving with it until initiative count 20 on the next round. That's baller. I love that one. You want to pin a wizard down. That's how you do it. And then the Demilich targets any number of creatures it can see within 30 feet of it. No target can regain hit points or until initiative count 20 on the next round. So that's okay. It's a nice one to combo with knocking someone unconscious or something like that. Yeah, I don't actually have too much problem with those, so we're not going to really focus on those today. I would say that the knocking prone one is pretty blah, especially for a creature that doesn't have any melee attacks, right? But the lair traits, this is something I've not seen on another monster. They might be, there might be other examples of this, either in this book or in other books, but I haven't come across them yet. The idea here is that these are not actions, these are passive abilities or effects that can kind of mess with anyone who enters their lair or tries to do stuff in the lair. So here's the 3 of them that we have. We have the first time a non-evil creature entered the tomb's area, the creature takes 16 or a 3d10 necrotic damage. So, okay, a little necrotic damage. The next one is monsters in the tomb have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened and against features that turn undead. Okay, a little corner case, but interesting. And then lastly, the tomb is warded against the magical travel of creatures the Demilich hasn't authorized. Such creatures can't teleport into or out of the tomb's area, or use planar travel to enter or leave it. Effects that allow teleportation or planar travel work within the tomb so long as they aren't used to leave or enter the tomb's area. So Misty Step works, right, but Plane Shift does not. And those are the Laird traits. As you can kind of see, I have some thoughts about those, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So yeah, that's the Demilich. It's interesting, right? It's like it's an interesting way to do it's an interesting way to do some of these powers, like to do like an undead bad guy that's not a spellcaster, which I think is kind of fun. That seems to be like the big change between the Demilich and the Lich, is that they lose their ability to cast spells, presumably because they lose their voice and they lose their hands. But to me, that would also indicate they should lose their intelligence. That's not one of the things I want to talk about, but that is kind of strange the more that I think about it. So I have 3 big problems with the Demilich. The first problem is actually kind of a weird one, is that one of the Demilich's, I think, coolest abilities, Trap Soul, is relegated to a sidebar in here. So there's this whole sidebar about a Sararak, who is kind of the poster child for the Demilich. M. Grant says, prone could be great to buy time to get away. Prone a few of them, and then flight. Yeah, that's cool. I don't hate that. Let's see. The way that the... yeah, I'm not proposing we change that one. That was the one that impressed me the least. There's a whole paragraph in here about a Sararak, and about how a Sararak chose to become a Demilich, next step in a dark evolution, powerful wizard and demonologist, anticipated his own transformation, preparing for it by setting enchanted gemstones into his skull's eye sockets and teeth. He abandoned his physical body, accepting that it would molder and dissolve to dust while he traveled the plains as a disembodied consciousness. Other liches follow their path. It increases their challenge rating to CR 21 or 23 in their lair, and they gain the following additional action option. It was called Trap Soul. The Demilich targets one creature that it can see within 30 feet. The target must make a DC 19 Charisma saving throw, so high save. On a failed save, the target's soul is magically trapped inside one of the Demilich's gems. While the soul is trapped, the target's body and all the equipment it is carrying cease to exist. On a successful save, the target takes 24, 7d6 necrotic damage, and if this damage reduces the target to 0 hit points, its soul is trapped as if it failed the saving throw. Pretty nasty. A soul trapped in a gem for 24 hours is devoured and ceases to exist. If the Demilich drops to 0 hit points, it is destroyed and turns to powder, leaving behind its gems. Crushing a gem releases any soul trapped within, at which point the target's body reforms in an unoccupied space nearest to the gem and in the same state as when it was trapped. So again, very cool, very powerful, arguably not more powerful than something like Howl, right? I think Trap Soul belongs in the main stat block. I think it's an odd idea to have the Demilich have these cool gems, but only in this one offshoot version of the Demilich. So I would argue that that needs to be ported over and plopped into the main stat block. I would maybe argue for removing Howl. Howl's cool, but low DC on that thing. I don't think it's necessarily that scary compared to how scary Trap Soul would be. I think Life Drain is good crowd control in the sense of hitting 3 people, and then just swap out Howl for Trap Soul, because it's so key to how the Demilich works. Now, on that same token, I want to talk about the Demilich's legendary actions. So I kind of find it to be a little underwhelming. I mean, I'm fine with Cloud of Dust. I think Energy Drain is okay. It feels like it's kind of in the same zone as Life Drain. Like, they feel very similar. I don't necessarily think that they need to be separated. It's weird that they break those apart. But the one that I think is really egregious is Vile Curse. I think Vile Curse, for targeting one creature, it costs 3 actions. They make a relatively low DC saving throw. It's DC 15 Wisdom, right? And then they're cursed. Until the curse ends, they have disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. So, it's useful, but they make a saving throw at the end of each one of their turns, ending the curse on a success. So it's not really a curse in that same way, right? Because curses have to be removed with spells like Remove Curse or Greater Restoration. It's just an effect. It costs 3 actions. It targets one person. It doesn't deal any damage. It just gives them disadvantage. And again, that's helpful in the sense of especially setting up these saving throws. I'm not opposed to it having a curse power, but one target, low DC, 3 actions, I just don't think I would ever use that. I think I would prefer Cloud of Dust to blind everybody, and then Energy Drain if I'm going to be using legendary actions, right? So I would argue that we should maybe get rid of Vile Curse, but I have a radical idea. I want to change the way that the Demilich uses their legendary actions. Because the Demilich is kind of a unique monster, and I think that there's a cool way we could lean into that. So what if we said that instead of having 3 legendary actions per round, the Demilich has a set number of legendary actions? You know, maybe that's 5, maybe that's 10, maybe that's 20, I don't know, right? Something like that. And the idea is that it can use as many legendary actions as it wants per round, right? Obviously only in between other creatures' turns as normal. But once it uses a legendary action, it can't get it back. They don't recharge. So rather than having 3 every round, say that it's got, 6 or 12 or whatever we think is the appropriate number. And here's the reasoning behind that. What if every time it uses a legendary action, the Lich is burning one of its soul gems, right? If it's got the 2 in the eye sockets and it's got the teeth that are gems, that like it has a set number of them. Maybe you even roll. Maybe you say that the Demilich has 1d6 plus 2 or whatever legendary action. That's how many soul gems it has. And every time it uses one, it is burning a resource. It's saying, okay, I'm destroying this soul gem. I'm devouring it or burning it out or whatever in order to achieve this effect, right? Because then you could redesign these legendary actions entirely, and you could give them cool powers based on what kinds of souls and what kinds of gems are being destroyed. In 4th edition, a lot of the Demilich's powers are named things like Amethyst Eye and Obsidian Eye and things like that. And I loved that flavor that like you could physically describe, the gem either like winks out or it shatters or does whatever. And it's like basically removing its own effectiveness the more that it fights. It's an interesting way to do legendary actions. It's different and not like other monsters. And that is a big goal I find of this podcast and of this stream, is to make the monsters feel unique and interesting. M. Grant says, what about moving the lair action with being unable to regain hit points to the legendary list? Yeah, that's a cool one. I could see that. This is what I think would be interesting, is we could say that there are even more legendary actions if it has to choose which one of them they are. That would mean we would have to kind of like balance them all, right? So rather than costing 2 actions or costing 1 action, you could say it costs multiple gems, but I kind of think it's cooler if each one is just a 1-to-1, and the Demilich can choose, like if it wants to in that first round, it could just blitz and just legendary action, legendary action, legendary action after each one. We wouldn't necessarily have to bring them down in power. But then a Demilich that does that, right, gets into some trouble because then it runs out of legendary actions as the combat goes on. It's kind of about husbanding its resources, right? You can kind of play into the personality of the particular Demilich. 32 teeth plus 2 eyes, do they have wisdom teeth? It's not all of the teeth, presumably. It's several of the teeth, but yes. If you look at the art, not all of the teeth are soul gems, but some of them are, yes. Wisdom teeth, just all of these gems. Imagine that's the one thing I do think is silly about the teeth, is that like imagine the dentist that had to do that, right? That like, did the Lich do that themselves? Did the Lich like hire somebody to do that? It's very strange. Great. And then my last problem is that the lair traits I think are a really cool idea, and I love that for 5th edition and for these monster blocks. I mean, the idea of lair actions and regional effects and legendary actions in general is a really nice improvement from previous editions. I personally think that these lair traits are not that exciting. I mean, I want you to think about this for a second, right? M. Grant says, I feel like this creature is the, quote, final form, end quote, of undead eternal existence. So sacrificing soul gems seems counterintuitive to their existence. You see, the thing is, M. Grant, unfortunately, that is not actually the lore. This is what's so confusing to me about the monster, is that, like, at times they say this is the ultimate form, but as written, the Demilich is a CR 18 monster. So if it has the soul gems, then sure, it's a CR 23 or 21 if it's in the lair, right? But it's not actually as powerful as a Lich because it can't cast spells. And so I don't understand then if we're saying that the Demilich is better or if it's worse. they make a huge point in every single like version of the Demilich. They talk about how it doesn't mean that it's less powerful than a normal lich, even though it's called that. It just means that it's smaller. It's a Demilich. Like, they make this huge stink about it, but then most of the time it is less powerful than a lich. So it's kind of like saying that it's less powerful by calling it a Demilich. Yeah, non-liches choose to transform it into a Demilich because apparently it's bad, right? Apparently it's not preferable. So I don't know that it is the ultimate form of being a lich. I can't decide, you know. And I think the conceit with it too is that, like, if we're saying it's an Acererak thing, where Acererak is like teleporting around the various different cosmoses, right, through the different planes of existence, that this is functionally their phylactery, right? That like a Demilich happens when they stop feeding their reliquary, with souls, and so they have to use these soul gems instead. And so they're down to this point of like, yeah, it's preferable to wasting away to dust, but like, it says few liches seek to become Demiliches. Because my understanding is that, like, granted to a lich lasts only as long as it feeds mortal souls to its phylactery. If it falters or fails in that task, its bones turn to dust until only it's... So it's not a choice, right? They would waste away to dust. This is what happens if they don't do it. This Demilich contains only a fragment of the lich's malevolent life force, just enough so that if disturbed, these remains rise into the air and assume a wraith-like form. It's not a choice that they're making. The average Demilich, Acererak did, and that's where the gems supposedly come from. But this is something that just naturally happens to a lich if they don't feed their reliquary, right? To me, it's like the Demilich, you know, maybe you make some point about if it burns its final soul gem, then it's destroyed, right? That, like, it has to retain one of its legendary actions, you know? But to me, it's like saying that it's got these nuclear weapons in its pocket, you know, that it can bust out. That if it has to, it will do this in order to prevent its skull from being destroyed, right? And that, again, but here's the thing, that's a reasonable interpretation. Like, I don't think either of us is wrong. It's been interpreted both ways across the history of the monster. And so it's like, I think it's confusing. I don't think it's clear what the lore is, you know? It's just very strange. This is what I mean. It's a weird monster. Mechanically, I think it's a baller. I think it's a really cool, powerful monster. But the reason you would run one eludes me. You know, I don't necessarily like the concept. So to me, I like the idea of the soul gems being a thing that it, like, as long as it retains one. But that's the question, right? Is that, like, if you destroy a Demilich, then I think it's destroyed. It doesn't rejuvenate, as far as I know. There's no power in there. There's no power in here that says that it rejuvenates. Even after Lich is reduced to a Demilich state, its reliquary survives. As long as its reliquary is intact, the Demilich can't be permanently destroyed. Well, wait a minute. Its skull reforms after 1d10 days, restoring the creature to its wretched state. If it has the presence of mind to do so, a Demilich can reclaim its former power by feeding just one soul to its reliquary. Doing so restores the Demilich to lich form, reconstituting its undead body. Huh. But how does it feed a soul to a reliquary if it doesn't... that's very weird. So it can't. Basically, this is a version of the Demilich that can't cast lich that can't cast spells, and that's it. Because my interpretation would be that in this state, if it stops feeding souls to its reliquary, then the reliquary stops working, right? And it has to result to these eyes, to these soul gems. That's where I'm going to go with it, I think, and that's how it maintains itself. It's just going to be the way I'm going to reflavor it. That's how we're going to do it. Okay, so let's dive in. We're going to talk about the mechanics. Oh, Mcran says, has the new lore changed spell casting for the Lich? I'm not sure necessarily, because we haven't really looked at the Lich as a monster yet. So I'm not really sure what the lore on the Lich and its spell casting is up to this point. That is a good question. Okay, so we are going to use TetraCube here, and we are going to port over our new changes to the Demilich. Oh, I want to move that. That's annoying. Put avoidance up first. You want to get them alphabetical if you can. Okay, so what are the things we're going to do here? We are going to add Trap Soul as one of its primary abilities. So I would like to get rid of Howl. Howl is gone, and then it's going to be Trap Soul. They have to have enough of their soul / smarts to put back a soul, which they usually... Yeah, exactly, Nuker Wolf. I don't understand. It's very strange. Like, are they intelligent? Are they not intelligent, right? I mean, I kind of think it's like, this is a lich running on fumes. I think they're just as intelligent. I think they can talk. Maybe there's some precedent, you know, for them sort of like losing their wits or whatever, that like they become irrational or something like that. But like, I don't necessarily think that... I don't know. I don't love the idea of them just being mindless, because then why are they trapping souls and all these powers and stuff? I don't know. It's weird. So I'm going to say in my lore version of it, which I might do, I'll probably have to do in the write-up, that the Demilich is like as intelligent as the Lich, but they're just kind of in this desperate, impoverished state. Okay. Just a second, folks. Can you still hear me? Okay, cool. Let me get the camera working again. Oh, not FaceTime camera. Oh, it's my very bad camera. 1 second. Stand by. Hey, it's me. Oh, there's going to be a huge delay here, though. Hopefully it'll catch back up. Oh, it's getting there. Okay. Just give it a second. I feel like if it can't cast spells because it can't cast spells because it can't speak and doesn't have hands, but if it becomes an inherent ability instead of spell slots, then there's a chance that Demilich could cast the spells. It could. I also just think I'm going to have it be able to speak, right? Like, I don't hate the idea that it can't cast spells. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But the idea of it having 20 intelligence and not being able to speak is a little weird to me. You know, because, like, if your argument is like, well, it doesn't have lungs, so it can't speak. I'm like, well, a Lich doesn't have lungs either, you know? I just don't understand some of the decisions that were made here. Okay, point being, we're doing Trap Soul. All right. The Demilich targets one creature that it can see within 30 feet of it. The target must make a DC 19 Charisma. I love that it's a Charisma saving throw. Like, that's great. I have this axe to grind that I think there aren't enough Charisma saves. That I think, like, a lot of spells that should be Charisma saves are actually Wisdom saves. Like, I think Polymorph should be Charisma rather than Wisdom. Because, like, it's not like you... Like, Wisdom is about seeing through illusions, right? And it's about seeing the truth of something. And so you could argue that, like, it's a Wisdom save because you're trying to... Flame Skulls can speak? Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, that's so silly. What? That's so silly. Yeah, I have this axe about... I have this beef with Wisdom saves. So there's too many Wisdom saves in the game. Too many Wisdom, too many Dexterity, too many Con. Not enough Strength, Intelligence, and Charisma. And I think that, like, certain spells that are about changing your essence, right? Like, if you're being polymorphed, then I feel like that's a Charisma save. It's like, what is your force of will? No, I am who I am, right? That's Charisma. That's not Wisdom. Because it's not like there's a lie or a deceit. You're not piercing it. You're being physically transformed, right? So I have this thing about Charisma saves. I think there should be more of them, and I'm always happy to see one. I especially think there should be more intelligence saves. Not tons more, but there are a couple of classes that have in-save bonuses, and there's like 2 reasons to ever use one, right? Like Feeble Mind and the Intellect Devourer, and like that's it, you know? I don't even think the Mind Flayer does in-saves. Isn't that stupid? Inside one of the Demiliches, magically trapped inside one of the Demilich's gems. While the soul is trapped, the target's body and all the equipment it is carrying cease to... How that they cease to exist. They don't, like, disintegrate. They cease to exist. On a successful save, the target takes 2476 necrotic damage. Oh, we were talking about lair actions. Oops, I didn't even get through all of these lair traits. I'm so sorry. I'm a dingus. We got distracted on the lore. Okay, let's talk about lair traits. I completely forgot. So here are the 3 lair traits. The first time a non-evil creature enters the tomb's area, the creature takes 16 3d10 necrotic damage. It's cool, but you're 18th level, 16 damage. Come on, that's nothing. It's not gonna do anything to you, right? Like, you can instantly heal that, or you might not even notice if you're 18th level. So I would say that it could be the same amount of damage, but I would say that it's every time you take a long rest. Like, whenever you wake up from a long rest, you've taken 3d10 necrotic damage. So you just start off with fewer hit points than you normally would. You know, it can be when you enter and every time you take a long rest. That's fine. But just one time, that stinks. No, thank you. So the next one is monsters in the tomb have advantage on saving throws against being charmed or frightened and against features that turn undead. Okay, not a lot of powers have that. I mean, like, some charms, I guess, for players, some spells. But I kind of like the idea of going even further and saying that, like maybe not just monsters, but undead inside the lair, you know, if they're below a certain CR, they automatically regenerate, right? So skeletons, zombies, low-level stuff, they're constantly being thrown at you. You can never get a long rest. You can never rest easy in the lair, because whenever you defeat a monster, maybe you even say it's like CR5. So that means like wights and things like that would be coming back and fighting you again, right? Like, you're constantly fighting the same handful of monsters over and over again. And if you're powerful enough, then you can just kind of cut through them. But if you're using spells or they're draining your hit points, like, that could be pretty nasty over time. And the last one, the tomb is warded against magical travel of creatures the Demilich hasn't authorized. Such creatures can't teleport into or out of the tomb's area or use planar travel to enter or leave it. Effects that would allow teleportation, blah, blah, blah. We talked about this one, right? So I would say instead of just teleportation, I was inspired by the Mummy Lord, who has a lair action. Maybe the Mummy Lord does have a lair trait. I forget which one it is. But it's basically saying that, like, anyone who casts a divine spell in the presence of the Mummy Lord is, like, racked with pain. Imagine if the Demilich could mess with or potentially counter arcane spells cast in the lair, right? That, like, the rules of how arcane magic work, maybe you'd make that a point about, like, because it's something to do with the reliquary, right? That, like, the reliquary has gone haywire because it's not been fed souls, and now it is just, like, messing with arcane magic. Because the Demilich can't cast spells, now nobody can. Or there's a chance you might not be able to, right? Wouldn't be an anti-magic field, but it would affect specifically, like, arcane casters. So, you know, wizards, sorcerers, warlocks, bards, that kind of a thing. That's kind of what I'm thinking. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I totally forgot we didn't talk about it. I was just looking at the amount of damage that this was. Like, no, 24 is not that much. It reminded me of that first lair trait. And if this damage reduces, this is so nasty, the target to 0 hit points, its soul is trapped as if it failed the saving throw. A soul trapped in a gem for 24 hours is devoured and ceases to exist. If the Demilich drops to 0 hit points, it is destroyed and turns to powder, leaving behind its gems. Crushing a gem releases any soul trapped within, at which point the target's body reforms in an unoccupied space nearest to the gem and in the same state as when it was trapped. Cool. That's our action. So life drained and trapped soul. Love that. Love that for us. So now the big change is going to be in the legendary actions. So we're going to say that the Demilich has 1d6. Maybe this is a separate power. Now let's do it here. The Demilich has 1d6 plus. Okay, so what do we want the range to be? The fewest I think we want it to have is 3. The most we want it to have is probably what, 9? But that seems like a lot. So like 1d6 plus 3. The fewest then it would have would be 4 or 5. We could do 1d, yeah, 1d6 plus 3 soul gems. As 1d3 plus 6 soul gems. As a legendary action, the Demilich can choose. Demilich can crush a soul gem. You don't think so? You don't think it's lasting 3 rounds? Can crush a soul gem. Wow, I guess I don't play that much high level. I don't play that much high level 5e, but as a legendary action, the Demilich can crush a soul gem to activate. Yeah, you're right. Let's go 1d6 plus 5. So it's at the minimum gonna have 6, could be even more. But I'm saying if it can use as many as it wants, like, well, right, M Grant, but again, it can constantly regain hit points with life drain. It doesn't take damage from successful saves. It's resistant to almost everything. Like, yeah, it's got a lot of protection. Maybe it doesn't last 3 rounds, but I don't know about a level 12 party. Demilich can crush a soul gem to activate a soul gem to activate a legendary action. Well, first of all, the dragons in this game are very, very poorly designed. Dragons are garbage. This is better. I'm not saying it's incredible, but it's dragons as written, trash. Can crush a soul gem to activate a legendary action. Only one legendary action. Yeah. Option can be used at a time and only at the end of another creature's turn. The Demilich regains, but then we lose this. So yeah, that's the idea, is it can like do them. Okay, so that's that. We'll put the average in there, actually. We'll go like this. We'll go 1d6 plus 5. Let's see if that does it. Oh, I see. It doesn't like that. It doesn't like that. What if we go 2d6? 7. That means I'm up to 12 or 2. Is 3d6 too much? 3d6 too much? 10 soul gems? It's a lot. Yeah, that feels like a lot. So let's go 2d6. I think 2d6 is good. 2d6 soul gems. But like, yeah, this is just a tetracube problem. So I could just, yeah, let me just write it out. I could do 2d6. I could do like 1d6 plus 5. Yeah, and we'll just put it in. That would be what? What's the average of 1d6 plus 5? 1d6 plus 5. So is 8. Is 8 soul gems. As a legendary action, the Demilich can crush a soul gem to activate a legendary action. Yeah, to activate one of the options below. One of the abilities below. Only one legendary action option can be used at a time. And only at the end of another creature's turn. Yeah. Unlimited chain. I think it can do it as much as it wants to. Which again, I think will hopefully. Oh, god damn it! God damn it! I just accidentally hit reset to default. God damn it! Okay, hold on. I'm so stupid. The Demilich has 8, 1d6 plus 5 soul gems. As a legendary action, the Demilich can crush a soul gem to activate, to choose from one of the abilities below. Only one legendary action can be used at a time, and only the end of another creature's turn. The Demilich does not regain spent legendary actions. Yeah, it just has a set number. Okay. Now don't mess with that. Silly. Oh, look at what layer in there. Ooh. That's fun. Yeah, we're fine though. Okay. So, legendary actions. Let's talk about it. Let's brainstorm some cool things they can do with their gems. So, one of them is just to regain a bunch of hit points. I kind of think if you're worried about it, you know, getting destroyed too quickly, I think you can do. Boy, yeah. What a bunch of different types of gemstone. Because it'd be fun to do like, yeah. So there's emerald. Let's make a list. Legendary action ideas. So let's do maybe like 6 different options. So there's ruby eye, sapphire eye, emerald eye, amethyst eye, obsidian eye. It's another cool gemstone. Bloodstone or bloodstone eye is pretty cool. That's kind of similar to ruby if it's red. Citrine, or just some cool topaz maybe. Gemstones. Aquamarine is kind of dumb. Ebony. Ebony's a wood. Oh, it's on this list of them. Jade, maybe? Carnelian. This is not a good list of these. Very weird. So one of these I think is just like a raw heal, right? Like they just amber maybe. We have amethyst. Beryl. Onyx is pretty cool. Maybe let's do onyx instead of obsidian. This is an actual gemstone. Onyx is just volcanic glass. Sapphire, emerald, cat's eye. We have a purple one. We have a green one. I don't mind jade, jasper, malachite, moonstone. I mean, bloodstone might be the one. It just also feels red, you know. Opal, maybe opal eye. Peridot eye. Yeah, let's do opal. So one of these, we'll say it's opal. The Demilich regains 40 hit points. Or is it like the Demilich? Yeah. Yeah. Regains 40 hit points. It regains half of its total hit points, right? If it cannot regain 40, if 40 hit points, if it is less than 40 hit points below its maximum, less than 40 hit points below its maximum, the Demilich gains temporary hit points equal to the difference. Rose quartz, pearl. Thank you, Nuker Wolf. Appreciated. Onyx Eye. So some of these we already know. Like some of these we have, right? We've got an energy drain. We've got a vile curse we could do. That's kind of fun. The Demilich targets one creature it can see within 30 feet of it. The target must succeed on a DC 15 wisdom saving throw or be cursed or be magically cursed until the curse ends. Target at disadvantage on saving throws. Yeah, we've got Amethyst. Disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns. Onyx Eye, Sapphire Eye, Ruby Eye. Some other cool spooky effects. It's energy drain 1. Let's limit this down. Let's say it's one target, right? One creature. Let's have that be Onyx Eye. So it's one creature within 30 feet. And Steven, of course. One creature within 30 feet of the Demilich must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw. Or be blinded, or no, not be blinded. On a failed save, the target's hit point maximum. On a failed save, the target's hit point maximum is reduced by 10, 3d6. I don't know why I'm writing these here, I guess. These need to go over on the other thing, but it's easier to refer to them both. If the creature's hit point maximum is reduced to 0 by this effect, if the creature's hit point maximum is reduced to 0 by this effect, creature dies. Actually, let's change that because that seems very nah to me, actually. If you can only do it, like you could do it multiple times, right? But on a failed save, the target takes, what would that be? 20, 66 necrotic damage, and the target's hit point maximum. Yeah, exactly. It's like those nightmares people have where their teeth are falling out while they're in a public place. Is reduced by the amount of necrotic damage taken. Damage taken if a creature's hit point total. You know what? Let's actually do this. Let's go like this. Hit point. If the creature is reduced to 0 hit points by this effect, the target dies. So it's like a way to finish somebody off. A creature's hit point maximum can be restored with the Greater Restoration spell or similar magic. A creature's hit point maximum be restored by with the Greater Restoration spell or similar magic. With the Greater Restoration spell or similar magic. Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna start grabbing these and dragging them over. We're gonna go get rid of you. They were all already here. I'm such an idiot. Okay, we're gonna go like this. I love silence. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, what are some interesting ones? I was thinking about silence. I was thinking about ethereal, going to the ethereal plane, right? Like a way to get out. Add legendary action. Amethyst Eye is that one. And then Onyx Eye is this one. Onyx Eye. Add legendary action. Opal Eye. Add legendary action. I love silence. That's great. I mean, it's yeah. Is it better or worse than anti-magic? Because it's got an anti-magic layer action. I think ethereal plane is cool. I think stun isn't bad. I almost want to do like time stop or like something bananas, right? Like what are some cool ninth level spells that it can be doing, right? Yeah, let's do like a mind blast style stun instead of a time stop. So let's see. What do we have? I kind of want more interesting ones than Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Let's do Jade, Garnet. What's the other one you said? Jasper. Oh, that's pretty similar to Jade in color. You have Onyx and Opal as well. Okay, so let's do Jasper Eye. How would you do it? Like, yeah, it'd be functionally Mind Blast, right? Mind Blast. Oh, we can get Howl in there. Yeah, I like that. Mind Flare. Maybe it should be one target though. I think these should all be one target. I think that's cool. Okay, so Mind Flare, it doesn't matter actually. Let's do Demilich targets one creature can see within 30 feet of it. Let's make it DC. Alright, see you later. I'm Grant. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Target must succeed on DC. Be stunned. Be stunned. Until the start of the Demilich's next turn. Add ability. Add legendary action. Okay, I want to try to do like 3 that are more like utility. So Opal Eye is utility. These 3 are attack. Let's do I actually don't like the curse. What if we kill the curse? What if we change this one to the Howl? Wisdom saving throw. On a failure, the target is reduced to 0 hit points. 0 hit points. On a success, the target takes. Gosh, what is it? For Howl. Oh, we have it right here. Silly me. Howl is. It's frightened. The target is frightened. It's frightened until the start of the Demilich's next turn. Risk gravity's not bad. I don't hate that. It feels a little wacky, but I want some utility. I want the ethereal one. We'll say that is not Jade. What did we say? Garnet Eye. Garnet Eye. Demilich. think it's the Night Hag that goes ethereal. Yeah. Magically enters the ethereal plane from the material plane, or vice versa. Yeah, the Demilich magically enters the ethereal plane. The Demilich magically enters the ethereal plane. It remains there until it remains there for 1 minute. For 1 minute. Or until it spends a bonus action to return to the material plane. Garnet Eye. First Gravity's cool. Force Cage is pretty good. Kind of similar to Stun, I guess. I don't hate Force Cage. Force Cage. Oh, we should go to Trap Soul here and go. Soul is trapped as if it failed the saving throw. In addition, the Demilich gains 1 additional soul gem it can sacrifice for a legendary action. So it does have some way to get them back. Hey, Alan, what's going on? Better than Stun, doesn't have a save. Yeah. So do you think we should replace the Stun with Force Cage? We just have so many of them that are like, make a saving throw. They're like, I'm interested in ones that don't target saves, right? That like, we've got 3 of them that do. I think they're all wisdom saves. Oh, one's the Constitution for Onyx Eye. We've got enters the ethereal plane, gains temporary hit points. Like, teleporting doesn't seem powerful enough. It's kind of similar to ethereal plane. I feel like there's got to be one other cool thing that doesn't force it, like is just beneficial to the Lich and not oh, but I guess the Force Cage doesn't. Yeah. Let me look at how Force Cage is written. I don't hate that, but I almost like them to be things that buff the Demilich a little more. Let me grab the PHB and I'll check out Force Cage. Is this the right book? Yes. Lose Stun in favor of Force Cage, but then we need another one that does a saving throw. Force Cage. Maybe it's like a haste effect? Banish is cool. Yeah, I thought about Banish. Force Cage. But Force Cage and Banish feel very similar to me conceptually. The only problem with Force Cage is that it's a big stat thing. We'd have to write all of this out. It's not just like a condition. Let's do Banish instead of Force Cage. I think that's my vote. Force Cage is a cool spell, but for the purposes of writing it here, I don't want to have to send somebody to the book. Yeah, let's do Banishment, because that one's a little easier to type up. I think maybe that's not an accurate description. Banishment also has got long. We can do a shortened version of Banishment. I feel like that's not that hard. Okay, so let's get rid of Stun, and let's go. Target one creature within 30 feet of the target must succeed on a DC 15. I'm gonna do Charisma saving throw. Charisma saving throw. On a failure, the target is banished to a harmless demiplane for one. Is it for 1 minute? That's pretty gnarly. Okay, then they make a save at the end of each one of their turns. Yeah. Banishment. It just remains until the spell ends. Nasty. So I'm just gonna say that it banished for 1 minute, but it can make a save at the end of each one of its turns. The target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, returning to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of where it vanished from. Cool, that's legendary action. That's the new Jasper Eye. Okay, cool. Sort of like Feeble Mind or something like that for... Oh, we still have 3 ones that target it. How am I losing the curse? Or we did lose the curse. Which one do I not mind losing? I don't mind losing Onyx Eye. What about Feeble Mind? Yeah, let's do Feeble Mind. Pretty gnarly, but... We can do it the other way around, though. We can do, because Feeble Mind is gnarly. It's like they just automatically take 46 psychic damage, and then they make a saving throw. There's no attack involved. So they can make an intelligence saving throw, and if they fail, they take 46 damage. Yeah, it's tricky. How do you do that? They take the damage. What are we still missing here? That is Jade Eye. It's Feeble Mind. The Demilich. But I want it to be something that helps the Lich. I'm tired of antagonizing the enemy. Oh, we're going to change the Amethyst Eye. That's what we're going to do. Okay, cool. Demilich targets one creature you can see within 30 feet of it. The target must succeed on a DC 15 Intelligence saving throw. Saving throw. On a failure, the target's intelligence is reduced to 1. It's reduced to 1. I keep closing the things that I need to keep open to get the text down. Feeble Mind. Creature can't cast spells, activate magic items, understand language, or communicate in any intelligible way. Can't cast spells. Someone's calling me. It's my friend Scam. Scam Likely is calling. The creature can't cast spells. What is this? Intelligence and charisma scores become 1. Whoa. Activate magic items. I'm just going to say intelligence. I think it's a little much to say both. Magic, am I not hitting? Is that an M? I'm just not. It doesn't look like it. Okay, magic items. Understand language. Understand language or communicate in any intelligible way. And I'm going to say what is the language I want here? I want a creature's intelligence can be stored with a greater restoration spell, yeah. A creature's intelligence can be restored with a greater restoration spell or similar magic. Okay, that's Amethyst Eye. And Jade Eye, the Demilich can take an additional turn. Ooh, what about like, right, yeah, boom, it takes another turn? Takes an additional turn after this takes, yeah, it just takes an additional turn. All right, the Demilich immediately takes an additional turn. That's so gnarly. Once this gem is crushed, it cannot be used again. Yeah, that's sick. Ugh. Ugh. I know. Spaced out it is. That's okay, though. That's fun. Look at all those. So we have Amethyst Eye, that Feeble Minds in them. We have Garnet Eye, which allows the Demilich to enter into the ethereal plane. Jade Eye immediately takes an additional turn. Jasper Eye, they succeed on a Christmas save where they're banished. Onyx Eye reduces their hit points. And Opal Eye gives them 40 hit points back. I kind of think Onyx Eye is a little weak sauce. I want it to be like a Sphere of Annihilation type thing. Is it Disintegrate or something? Finger of Death? Yeah, let's do Finger of Death. So we'll do like 8d6, so it'll be a little less damage than Finger of Death, because Finger of Death has like the plus 40 or whatever. Right damage. If this damage reduces a creature to 0, if this damage reduces the creature to 0 hit points, it dies and rises as a zombie in 1d4 rounds. Zombie under the Demilich's control in 1d4 rounds. Yeah, that's better. Reminds me a lot of the Death Tyrant that we made. That's a really cool design as well. That's better. When it brings it in a little bit. Yeah, I like that. That's really fun. Okay, hey, that's the Demilich. We might be done with the stream, everybody. That might be it. So I think I will make the lair traits something that we do for the patrons, but I will definitely take these ideas in consideration. I liked the notion of idea monsters that die in the lair. Reanimate. The only thing I don't like about this one, reanimate as zombies, is that like chances are good that the enemies, the monsters you would find in a Demilich's lair are going to be undead anyway, but it's not a terrible idea to have both, that like, you know, undead regenerate and then monsters that die reanimate, right? That's kind of cool. Awesome. That's the Demilich, everybody. Thanks for coming out. It was like an hour 15, not too bad. A little complicated of a monster, especially with our new lair actions and stuff. I love that. That's cool. Let me view this and load the stat, or save the stat block, just to make sure I have everything saved. So if you want to see those lair traits, the best way to do that is to sign up, for our Patreon. There are weekly rewards. There's actually a lot of times it's like more than weekly. There's stuff that gets dropped there. So we have early episodes of the podcast. We have early videos that I post here on YouTube. And particularly, we have these monsters that I design. So if you are a $1 patron on Patreon, then you get access to the monsters as I release them. If you are a $5 patron, you get access to the Trove, which is all the previous monsters I've designed, which includes like 50 homebrew ones that are just totally unique, plus over like 20 some adventures that I've made and maps and all kinds of stuff is on there. That's for $5 a month. You get access to the Trove, as well as a big document that compiles all of the monsters here. Yeah, that's the Patreon. Check that out. If you haven't already liked the video, please consider giving it a like, hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already, or you're watching it on VOD. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I've got all my information is down there below, all the normal hackneyed YouTube things. Hey, what's up, Sildari? Yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out. There are some early videos. That's true. They definitely get some early videos. Our patrons are already watching the next Thoughts from the Table. But thank you so much for coming and hanging out. Shout out to Sildari for popping in at the end there, M. Grant, Alan, and Nuker Wolf for coming and hanging out and working on this stream with me. We will be back next week. We'll probably be doing the demons that I forgot to do, but that's an exciting one because it's the Merilith, the Garistro, and the Baylor. So it's the biggest, meanest, nastiest demons, and I have some ideas on how to make them even bigger and meaner and nastier. And that will be next Thursday. I hopefully will be streaming this Saturday. I feel like I say this a lot and then I don't end up streaming, but I have an open Saturday. I should be able to stream some Sea of Thieves. So that'll be over on our Twitch page, which you can find links to on our Discord and on Patreon and on Twitter and all of the normal places. If you missed that stream, no worries. I will probably post a highlight over here on YouTube. I haven't done it in a while. It hasn't really been a good Sea of Thieves highlight to post. But Thank you so much for coming out, everybody. It means a lot. These streams would be a lot less enjoyable. Oh, no, I'm so far off the frame. Oh, no. How long was I sitting like that? Oh, that's obnoxious. These streams would be a lot less enjoyable if I didn't have you all here to hang out with me. So thanks so much for coming out. Hey, thanks, Sildar. I'm glad you like the Previously Ons. They're a lot of work, so I hope that they're rewarding to watch. They're getting, like, not that much more attention than my normal stuff. So I'm a little, you know, I could be a little more encouraged to do them, but they're fun to do. So I'll keep doing them for a while. We'll see how they go, how people feel about them. Whether or not they'll stick around, we'll see. So if you like those videos, make sure you watch them and make sure that you tell your friends to watch them as well. But until then, thank you so much for coming, and I will talk to you guys next time. But until then, as always, I was gonna pick you up. That's how used I am to doing the end of the video, right? Sorry there's so much delay, but thanks for coming, everybody, and I will talk to you all next time.